Now remember back in 2016 when Apple basically got rid of every important port from the MacBook Pro, along with getting rid of the function keys on the keyboard for the touch bar, got rid of the old keyboard for the new butterfly keyboard, and worst of all got rid of MagSafe? Yeah, that was not Apple's best year. But what's worse is that they kept that same design for 5 years, excluding the minor design change they had about 2 years ago when they brought back the escape key. But all that changes today, in what was, in my opinion, Apple's most impressive new product in a long time. Today, Apple just unveiled the next generation MacBook Pros with the new M1 Pro and M1 Max chips. To give you a quick rundown on these new chips, they're beasts compared to the existing M1 chip, which was already OP. To give you an idea on how good these chips really are, they're up to 3.7 times faster than the Intel Core i7 in CPU performance, and up to 13 times faster in GPU performance. That's insane. To give you perspective, an increase of just 1.2 times in performance is already considered impressive. But 13, like up to 13? It is worth noting that all these figures are coming directly from Apple, who tested everything in, the most favorable conditions, so take it all with a large pinch of salt. But aside from the chips, the machines themselves are pretty impressive. They undid a lot of the mistakes that they made in 2016 by bringing back the HDMI port, the SD card slot, but most importantly, MagSafe. They also brought back the function row on the keyboard, doing away with the touch bar, which I'll say, I'm neutral on. I know a lot of people are very anti-touch bar, but I was never that against it. In fact, the Mac I use now has a touch bar, which I was really excited for when I first got it, don't get me wrong, but I quickly realized how much of a gimmick it actually was. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, since you can configure the touch bar to have those function keys back, which is exactly what I did, and it's not bad at all. But I will admit Apple really overhyped the touch bar when it first came out, and most people probably never used it. But yeah, the touch bar is gone, and honestly I don't really care that much. Now moving on to the display is now a mini LED 120Hz display, and branded as a Liquid Retina XDR display with a very high dynamic range. And on top of that, the webcam is now 1080p. Finally. Now I will say, as much as I really like this new MacBook, my one complaint is that notch. Like, what the heck? Look, I'm really happy that they're stretching the display as much as they can towards the edges, but hole punch cameras have been around for a while now, just not on computers yet. But okay, never mind the hole punch camera. The real question is, why is the notch that large? Like, if anything, if you were really to have a notch, why not just make it like those little Android notches, where it just wraps around the camera and nothing else? This notch is like really wide. At least with iPhones it's justified because there's an IR blaster and IR camera that needs to be used for Face ID, which is why the iPhone's notch is, kind of large. But this new MacBook doesn't even come with Face ID, so it beats me why the notch is so unnecessarily wide. Not that it's that wide at all to begin with, but like, why not just make it as small as possible? It does look really ugly in my opinion. My only hunch is that they made it that wide because, you need space for the magnets to, close the lid, and that it could be dangerous if magnets are in use behind a display. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. But aside from that, the new MacBook also comes with a larger battery and a slightly different aluminum case that surrounds the body, which is actually a throwback to their MacBook Pros from pre-2008, which got their design from the old PowerBook G4. I mean, just look at the resemblance. But okay, let's zoom out. What this MacBook represents for Apple is a step in the right direction, showing that they're able to turn back on some of their mistakes and gimmicks, similar to when they got rid of 3D Touch on the iPhones, which was actually a good feature, but not many people really took advantage of it, and it was limiting Apple from adding even more new features. So overall, this new MacBook Pro really molds itself as a pro machine again, at least in the way that Apple hypes it up. But we'll just have to wait and see if the product itself lives up to the hype once it's released to the public. So yeah.